Ooh, one of the things I don't like about dissecting sharks is they're greasy. Like I can feel it on my gloves. Sometimes I don't bother with gloves. I don't care so much, but with sharks it's like you can see it on the plastic here. It's so greasy. Okay. Nice sharp scalpel this time. So typically you cut along the side so that you can open this whole thing out. There's already a cut here, so I'll probably just continue it and then have to cut it open twice. Take the scissors for this part. But you can see the thick layer of dermis and muscle tissue on the outside. And then you want to extend this all the way up. Again, you usually do it here. This is where you should do it, underneath. Do a cut underneath. Maybe I'll just use the scissors. So pectoral fin, you're cutting sort of in her armpit. In her armpit. Just so you can push that flap out of the way. So pectoral fin. And this is why it's nice to have it on one side, because then you only have one piece that you have to pin down instead of two. And then, if I can do it here. There we go. So that's the bone, but it's cartilage that's connecting the pectoral fin. It's the hardest bit to cut through because it's quite a substantial bone there. To open this sucker up. You want to be able to open. In some textbooks, like our lab manual, it just says to do this one cut and then flip this all open, but in others they cut on both sides and pull that whole piece out. I'm not quite sure what the best move for us is currently. I'm glad I got a nice new sharp scalpel though. You might recall my last video of the lamprey, I did not put a new scalpel blade on my scalpel and I regretted it. It's always nice to do these dissections with a nice sharp scalpel. It's a safer project. I think I'm going to have to do both sides. I don't think this is going to come out. I'm trying not to touch it with this glove so this glove doesn't get quite as greasy as this glove. One of my favorite rules generally is to try and keep one relatively clean hand and one really dirty hand. Because I'm right-handed, I typically try to keep my right hand my cleanish hand. Some textbooks have you cutting below the pectoral fin and others have you cutting above. So I'm going to try making a cut here and seeing if that helps. I'm being a little bit tentative about where I cut here because the shark's heart is right here. So I don't want to destroy that organ so you guys can't see it. So you can see the gills there. Oh, you can't see. You can see the gills in there. And this is the oral cavity. This is the tongue up here that I'm touching with my middle finger, the top of his roof of his mouth. You can kind of see these little hairs down in here. That's going down the esophagus. So I'm trying to cut through that layer. So on this side, his tongue will be over here and the roof of his mouth will be there, and we can cut right through the stomach and esophagus at some point so you can see that inner layer a bit better. I'm probably going to end up cutting right through everything. Oh, I'm not on screen. So this is great. You can see, here's the spiracle. You can sort of fit the blade down in there. Where's the probe? So this is the spiracle, and that opens up into the pharynx, and here are the gill slits. Oh, it's making a mess. I wonder if this is all food out of his stomach or clotted blood. Let's just move it all out of the way. So these are the gill slits, and you can see them on this side too, and they go through into here. So like sometimes, depending on the size of the shark, you can actually stick your finger through them. But I can definitely stick the probe through them. Oh, you can't see that. Those are the external gill slits. Like I said, there's one spiracle. The other one's up here. There's another spiracle up here. You can see. So that allows them to breathe while their mouth is shut. So they can eat and breathe at the same time. The spiracle goes right towards the gills. So the spiracle and the gill openings so the water come in the spiracle and then through the gills and out again while the mouth is full of food. This is the tongue on this side. It's very, very hard. You can see like it's not much of anything. The roof of the mouth, and you can see all the teeth that they're famous for. This is a small shark, so it doesn't have a lot of teeth. I'll do a zoom close-up of that later. And then the stomach I was talking about is back up here, but there's a bunch of other organs that we should probably talk about first. So if I use some of my probes here. So we've got these two big gray things are the liver. Liver is a super important organ. It's usually really big and really easy to find. And then this is part of the stomach here. So this is the esophagus, the main stomach. So it goes, esophagus and main stomach are about the same width. It has a very wide esophagus, and that's the part that's up here with that all those hairs. I'll cut that open so you can see all those hairs a little bit better. But they're like full of papillae to sort of help move food down. And then there's like this jig here in the duodenum, and then it continues down into ileum. So this is like full of valves, and you can kind of see them a little bit. And then out anus, colon down here. So the stomach system is right on top. When you open these things, it's pretty easy to find all that mesentery. So I might remove those so we can open them up and look at them, and then look at the things that are underneath. Once we look at move the lungs out of or the liver out of the way, and like there's the arteries leading to the liver. Everything, artery is hepatic, everything, kidney is renal. This is probably eggs. I'm trying to find attached to, we usually have a spleen and a weird pancreas I'm looking for. I wonder if this is the pancreas. I think that's what this is. This flappy mesentery, I think, is the pancreas. It's usually like this weird thin attached to the stomach. It's been a while since I've cut open a shark, but I think that's what the pancreas is. I think it's this thing sticking off here is pancreas. And then the spleen is usually down here, sort of attached. There's usually like right here is the spleen. And I'm not seeing it, like this looks like egg systems, not the spleen. But I'm not quite sure where the spleen is. So I'll have to do a little bit more digging. It might be down here, because it's usually like from the pancreas. The pancreas and the spleen are usually attached, and I'm not seeing that. But if this is a pregnant female, there might not be a ton of room. Sometimes females will have smaller organs to make room for all of their eggs. I need to cut this a little bit better so I can flip this open too. Alright, let's do a little bit more cutting and see what we can find. Because the heart should be in here somewhere too. It's usually like here, like the heart's probably up in here, like beside the gills. Let's remove the liver. I still see that. Alright, and then I'm going to cut into this esophagus so you can see how cool it is. See that? All these little papillae help move the food down the esophagus. And then if we get into the stomach, it's got lining. Whoa! And there's food that's half digested in here, of course. You can see those stomach ribbing. And you'll see that is pretty common in a lot of vertebrate stomachs. That ribbing in the stomach. But this is not super common to have those papillae in the throat, which is kind of neat in sharks. Keep cutting down into that J part of the stomach, and then we're getting into the intestine, and you can see it still has that ribbing, and then it's a valve when we get down here. This is like twisted, that's cool. This doesn't want to pull apart because there's valves. Each part of this has like a valve. So there's like a chamber and then a valve and then a chamber and then a valve. Let's see if we can cut it. I might have to change my gloves after I do this. It's so slippery. Oh. Starting to smell a little bit too. But yeah. So this part of the intestine has these chambers with valves in them, which is pretty cool. So this is one of the easier critters, like their digestive tract I find is quite easy to find and figure out. All the way down to our anus. So like I can cut up through the cloaca up into the colon and into the ileum. Which is neat. Okay. So I think we can work around this if I move this to one side. Let's cut open one of these. Oh, neat. Like there's no tissue in it yet. It's like solid, plasticized, like a hard-boiled egg. That's kind of what it feels like too, like a hard-boiled egg. It's kind of neat. Just sort of solid. Whoop! Flying eggs. So there's a lot of them in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's more down here too. So and you can see how we're all the way up at the head up here, and we had eggs right up here, right where the esophagus was. And in a male, that's where the testes are. The testes are right up here. Oh, I wonder if those are ovaries, not eggs. And that's why they are right up there. But they're all the way down here, too. Like, they feel more like they ought to be eggs, not ovaries. Oh my god. Is that a baby shark? Oh my god! Hey! Here is a baby shark with a yolk sac. 1 second. So here's the head, and you can see the little eye. And there's his little mouth. See his little mouth? His little eye. And he's curled around. There's his little tail. And he's still attached to his yolk sac. So this is what's cool about sharks, is even though they lay eggs, some of them are viviparous, where the baby sharks develop inside the mom and then are birthed fully formed. Instead of laying, some sharks lay an egg, and you get, they call them mermaid's purses. You get these like weird eggs outside of the shark, and the baby grows, develops outside of the mom. But in a lot of species of shark, the baby develops inside the mom. Look at that little pectoral fin. So this is a species of shark that has viviparous. Put it with the rest of the eggs over here. Does that mean there's another one? So like we had those egg yolk sacs up by the head, and then as we move down, oh, here's another one. We're gonna birth another baby shark down here. Probably attached to that egg sac. Oh, there's two more. Just pulled two more baby sharks out of her uterus / vaginal canal. They both still have eggs, so yolk sacs. They're not quite ready to be birthed yet. But they'll keep using up the energy in that yolk sac until it's time to be born. But they're pretty far developed. Like you can still see the gills in the mouth and the eyes. All the fins look pretty, like they're pretty good. Getting close. And the formaldehyde sort of plasticizes all the materials, but the eggs wouldn't be quite so hard. Like they're thinking like a much softer yolk sac. So that is our, which way do I need to put that? So this is our uterus here that we just pulled those babies out of. And it goes all the way down through the cloaca and would get birthed out here. So there's some on this side too. So that was on one side of the shark. From at the top, those eggs, so we had the egg yolks without sharks, and we worked our way down until we found full sharks. And if we go to the other side, I already pulled some eggs off of this side, and we can follow, stay up there. We can follow that canal and look. Here's another shark. Can you see it? Like, oh, my glove isn't fitting very well. Can you see that shark inside that uterus right there? And there's its egg sac. So it's got the dual canals, so sort of like one vagina and then two uteral canals leading up to two egg chambers.